Something has clearly changed between you and them, even if no one is saying it out loud. It's not always dramatic or loud when distance begins to form. Sometimes it shows up in the smallest shifts that are easy to miss at first. The conversations that once felt easy may now feel shorter. The warmth that used to flow naturally may feel a little reduced, and the sense of emotional closeness may not be as strong as it once was. When someone who mattered deeply starts to pull back, even slightly, it can create a noticeable emotional gap that both sides eventually begin to feel in different ways. From their side, there may be confusion about what exactly changed, especially if there was no clear ending or explanation. From your side, there is likely a growing awareness that you are no longer engaging in the same way you used to, whether that is through your words, your responses, or your emotional availability. These kinds of shifts don't always come from a single moment. More often, they build gradually over time until they become impossible to ignore. What once felt automatic and natural now requires more effort, and that effort itself changes the dynamic further. Whether this leads to understanding, distance, or something new entirely depends on what happens next. But one thing is already clear: the connection is not exactly what it used to be, and both sides are beginning to recognize that in their own way. They always believed you would stay, no matter how they behaved, no matter how long they took, no matter how confusing they were. They thought your heart was their safe place, always open, always available, always forgiving. But something in you snapped quietly, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of pure exhaustion. You were tired of carrying the whole connection alone. You were tired of reading mixed signals. You were tired of hoping for clarity that never came. So you withdrew, not dramatically, not loudly, but in the most dangerous way, emotionally. And the moment you did, the universe forced them to feel the consequence of every action they thought had no weight. Your withdrawal became their wake-up call, and now they are afraid, deeply afraid, because they know they caused this shift. But wait, because the next part is even more shocking. This person is replaying every conversation in their mind, every moment you pulled back, every time you sounded different, every time you didn't react the way they expected. They can feel that your energy is no longer flowing toward them. It's like your soul closed a door they never realized was even open. And now they are panicking inside, wondering, what if someone else is receiving the energy that used to belong to me? They don't want to admit this jealousy, but it's burning them. They don't want to admit this fear, but it's consuming them. They don't want to admit this regret, but it's tearing them apart. They know they pushed too far. They know they waited too long. They know they took you for granted. And now, your silence feels like punishment from the universe itself. And now, the deepest revelation of all. They never understood how powerful your presence was until you removed it. They never realized how lucky they were until they felt the emptiness of your absence. They never saw how loyal you were until they felt the loss of your focus, your warmth, your spiritual energy. You didn't walk away physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You stepped back so far that they can no longer reach you the way they once could, and that distance is breaking them. They know, with absolute certainty, that you withdrew because they failed to show up, because they didn't give clarity, because they didn't match your energy, because they left you hanging one too many times. And now they are terrified that you are slipping out of their story forever, and they have no idea how to pull you back. Listen carefully, because the moment you withdrew your energy, something unbelievable began happening behind the scenes. The same person who once acted distant, confused, or unsure is now experiencing a level of panic they never expected to feel. It's like the universe switched your roles overnight. Suddenly they are the one overthinking. They are the one checking their phone. They are the one replaying old moments. They are the one wondering why everything feels so different. They can sense that you're not leaning toward them the way you used to, and this realization is hitting them harder than any heartbreak they've ever known. Stay with me, don't move, because this gets even deeper. Here's the truth they're hiding from everyone. They tried to pretend everything was normal. They acted casual. They acted unbothered. They acted like they didn't need your presence all the time. But inside, they're restless. Their mind is running at 1,000 miles per hour because for the first time, they don't feel your energy pulling them closer. You always had a way of making them feel chosen, even when they didn't deserve it. You had a way of giving them comfort without them asking. But now, that invisible thread they always took for granted suddenly feels loose, fragile, almost broken. And that scares them more than they will ever tell you. Something huge is happening right now. Your silence is forcing them to confront every emotion they avoided. They are remembering how you used to respond instantly, how your words carried warmth, how your attention made them feel like they mattered. Now your energy feels distant, calm, controlled, and that shift is creating chaos inside them. They can't sleep the same way. Sometimes distance changes how people think, and it can make emotions feel heavier than expected. When a connection shifts or becomes quieter, it often leaves room for reflection, doubt, and unanswered questions. Thoughts like wondering if things were said too strongly, if someone has moved on, or if an important bond has faded can start to surface. In that space of silence, people may begin to understand just how much presence and consistency meant to them, even if they never expressed it clearly at the time. What once felt normal or easily available can start to feel rare in hindsight, and that contrast can create a sense of emotional discomfort or realization. It's not always about loss in a dramatic sense, but more about recognition of value after distance has created clarity. Moments like these can lead to a deeper awareness of how much support, attention, and understanding shaped the connection in the first place. And when that presence is no longer as strong, it can prompt a desire to reconnect or make sense of what shifted. In some cases, it becomes less about urgency and more about wanting to repair or understand what was overlooked. At its core, it reflects how people sometimes only recognize the importance of a bond when the rhythm of it changes, and that awareness can bring both regret and a wish to re-establish what once felt steady and meaningful. They are planning their next move carefully as you read this. They are watching you more closely than you think. They are hoping you haven't closed the door entirely, and now, something you never expected is unfolding. The moment you pulled your energy back, their entire internal world shifted like a storm breaking open without warning. They try to act normal on the outside, talking, laughing, working, living, but internally they are fighting a battle they can't explain to anyone. Their mind keeps circling back to you, again and again, because your silence feels like a door they never imagined you would close. And the terrifying part for them is this: they don't know how to reopen it. Every second of your distance is forcing them to confront the truth they avoided. You were the calm in their chaos, and without you, every part of their life feels slightly off balance. But wait, it gets even more intense. They are noticing details that they never paid attention to before. The energy in your messages, the tone of your replies, the timing, the difference in the way you show up. These tiny shifts, invisible to most people, feel monumental to them now. They can sense that you're guarded, that your heart is no longer fully open, that your soul has stepped back into its own protection. And this realization is haunting them because deep inside they know they caused this. You didn't withdraw randomly. You didn't pull back for fun. You did it because you had no choice left, and the guilt of that is eating them alive. Here is the truth that's shaking them from the inside out. They finally understand what you were silently begging for all along: effort, clarity, emotional presence. You weren't asking for the impossible. You weren't asking for perfection. You were asking for genuine connection. But they took too long. They hesitated at the wrong time. They chose fear when you offered openness. And now the universe has flipped the mirror toward them, forcing them to feel the very uncertainty they once put you through. Every moment of your distance is a reminder of everything they could have fixed, but didn't. But the most shocking part is happening right now. Your energy is becoming magnetic. The more you pull back, the more they are drawn toward you. The more silent you become, the louder their thoughts get. The more calm you appear, the more chaotic they feel. They can sense you evolving, leveling up, becoming emotionally stronger in ways they never imagined. And this transformation is intimidating them, not because you are slipping away, but because they are terrified someone else will see the value they ignored for so long. They are terrified someone else will give you the love, consistency, and commitment that they failed to offer. And now here's the moment everything shifts. They are preparing to break their silence. They are preparing to come forward with a seriousness you've never seen in them before. The fear of losing you has cracked open emotions they buried for months, maybe years. They know they can't afford to wait. They know the situation has changed. They know you are not the same person who once waited endlessly for them. You withdrew your energy, and now they're fighting with everything inside them to find a way back into your heart before it's too late. Okay, deeper. Because right now, something is happening inside this person that they never expected, never prepared for, and definitely never thought would be triggered by your silence. The moment you withdrew your energy, it didn't just create distance, it created an emotional earthquake inside them. They can't concentrate, they can't sit still, they can't stop sensing that something is slipping through their fingers. And what's haunting them the most is this one brutal truth. You didn't argue, you didn't beg, you didn't chase, you simply stopped giving energy. And that quiet withdrawal hits harder than any dramatic goodbye ever could. But there's something even bigger happening now. Your transformation has become impossible to ignore. The confidence in your voice, the calm in your energy, the strength in your silence, everything about you feels upgraded, elevated, powerful. You are no longer reacting emotionally. You are no longer waiting for validation. Something has quietly changed in the way you show up, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. The emotional pull that once felt automatic now feels replaced by distance, not in an angry or dramatic way, but in a calm and steady withdrawal that speaks louder than words. That shift alone is forcing reflection on the other side, because what once felt secure now feels uncertain. They are beginning to realize that your attention, your patience, and your emotional availability are no longer guaranteed, and that realization carries weight. In that space, memories of what was taken for granted start resurfacing, along with the uncomfortable awareness that your energy no longer revolves around them. There is a growing understanding that you are not waiting in place anymore, not standing still emotionally, and that life is continuing forward with or without their participation. This creates a kind of internal reckoning, where hesitation and silence start to feel heavier than any spoken words ever could. As time passes, what was once assumed begins to feel fragile, and the possibility of you moving on becomes more real than imagined. That awareness often brings clarity, and with clarity comes the urge to respond differently, to act instead of delay, to speak instead of hold back. What follows is a moment of truth forming in their mind, where unspoken thoughts push toward expression, and emotions that were once contained begin to surface in an honest way. In the end, it becomes less about control or pride, and more about understanding what your presence truly meant before the chance to acknowledge it disappears completely. They are ready to step forward with clarity. They are ready to open up in a way you've been waiting for. They are ready to admit their mistakes, their delays, their confusion, their fears. They are ready to show effort, because your silence proved what your words never needed to explain. You deserve more than halfway love. You deserve more than mixed signals. You deserve someone who chooses you fully. They feel the shift, they feel the loss, they feel the urgency, and now they're preparing to stop running and start facing everything they avoided. Now listen. Because what's happening inside this person has reached a point where they can't escape it anymore. The moment you withdrew your energy, something inside them cracked open, something raw, real, and deeply emotional. They are no longer confused. They are no longer pretending. They are no longer able to hide behind the same old excuses. Your silence has cornered them into their truth. Every memory with you has become sharper. Every moment they missed has become heavier. And now, they are carrying a fear they can't silence. The fear that your heart is slipping too far away for them to ever reach it again. But it's deeper than that. They aren't just missing you. They are realizing who you truly were in their life. The emotional anchor, the safe presence, the soft place they could fall, the one person who understood their silence even when they didn't explain anything. But now, that comforting energy is gone, and it's driving them into a space they never expected, self-reflection. They are actually analyzing their own behavior, something they avoided for so long. They are replaying conversations, moments where they shut down, moments where they pulled away, moments where you needed clarity, and they gave silence. And each memory hits them like a punch to the chest. Wait, because the turning point is here. Your withdrawal didn't just wake them up, it exposed everything they were scared to admit. They always had feelings for you. They always cared more than they let on. They always felt a pull toward you that they couldn't explain. But fear made them hide. Trauma made them hesitate. Ego made them delay. And now all three are crashing down at once, because the nightmare they never imagined is starting to feel real, that you might be moving on emotionally, and the thought of someone else getting the love, attention, tenderness, or loyalty they took for granted is tearing them apart in a way they can't control. Here's the part they're terrified to face. They know you don't need them anymore. They can feel it. The strength in your silence. The calmness in your energy. The independence in your presence. You're no longer reaching for them emotionally. You're no longer waiting for their responses. You're no longer tied to their inconsistency. And this terrifies them, because they always expected you'd be there. They always expected you'd stay. They always expected that no matter what, your heart would bend toward them. But this time, your heart stepped back. Your soul protected itself. Your energy reclaimed its power. And now, the most intense part of all, they are preparing to confront everything within themselves. Their fear, their pride, their mistakes, because they know the next step they take could change everything. They want to reach out. They want to explain. They want to fix things. But they are terrified that when they finally gather the courage to come toward you, they might find a version of you who no longer feels the same. A version of you they can't read, can't predict, can't control. And that thought alone is shaking them to their core. They're standing on the edge of a decision that could redefine your entire connection. Stay right here, because what's happening inside this person right now is reaching its breaking point. Your withdrawal wasn't just a shift. It was a shockwave that hit them harder than anything life has thrown at them in a long time. Somewhere in the quiet corners of their routine, they keep reaching for normalcy, trying to wrap yesterday's emotions in today's distractions. But it never fully works. No matter how busy they become, something subtle keeps pulling their thoughts back to you, like an echo that refuses to fade. They notice it most in the still moments, when everything slows down and the absence of your presence feels louder than any noise around them. What once felt casual now feels irreplaceable, and that realization unsettles them in ways they struggle to explain. Your silence, more than your words ever did, has become the thing they cannot ignore. It doesn't confuse them. Instead, it reveals too much. They understand it as a boundary, a final line drawn after too many unspoken disappointments. And that understanding weighs heavily on their mind. There is a growing fear that you are no longer waiting, no longer reaching back, no longer holding space for what used to be shared so easily. They are caught between pride and regret, between pretending they are unaffected and quietly questioning how things slipped so far. Even their thoughts seem divided, one part resisting change while another quietly accepts it is already here. That inner conflict grows louder each day, shaping how they act on the outside while the truth continues to build quietly within them. without finding resolution yet, no matter how much they try to ignore it. But their heart is screaming. Their heart is restless. Their heart is refusing to let them stay comfortable in the distance you created, because for the first time, they are realizing that you were not just someone in their life, you were the part that made everything feel better, lighter, safer, and now that you've pulled away, life feels flat, conversations feel empty, nothing hits the same, nothing feels the same, and no matter where they go, they keep feeling the same thought. I should have treated them better. I should have matched their energy. I should have shown up. But here comes the part that changes everything. They are starting to regret every delayed reply, every moment of confusion, every time they made you feel unsure, every time they assumed you would always stay. They are replaying those moments in their head and wishing they could go back and fix everything before you drifted away. But life isn't letting them escape the consequences, because the universe is forcing them to feel the exact pain they once ignored in you, and this emotional mirror is breaking them quietly. And now, the biggest shift of all. They are preparing themselves for a moment that could change your entire connection. They know they can't stay silent forever. They know they can't hold back anymore. They know if they don't speak now, you'll move on emotionally, and once you move on, you never return the same way. That truth terrifies them. They are building courage piece by piece. They are rehearsing what they want to say. They are trying to figure out how to come toward you without messing everything up again, because now they realize losing your energy wasn't a small thing. It was the beginning of losing you. Listen closely, because right now this person is standing in a place they never thought they would reach. Your withdrawal didn't just hurt them. It forced them into an emotional awakening. Their heart is louder than their ego for the first time. Their fear is louder than their pride. Their longing is louder than the distance. They can't escape the truth anymore. They miss the version of you that used to care so deeply, give so openly, love so silently, and now, they're terrified that version of you may never return. This fear is driving them into a state where every thought, every memory, every moment, leads right back to you. But something even deeper is happening beneath their surface. They are starting to understand the weight of everything they took lightly, the way you always showed up, the way you always tried, the way you always held the connection even when they were distant. You were their emotional anchor, and they didn't realize it until the anchor disappeared. Now their emotions feel scattered, their mind feels overstimulated, their heart feels unstable. They don't know how to center themselves without your presence, and this realization is hitting them with a kind of intensity that makes it impossible to stay calm. And here's the part they never planned for. Your growth is intimidating them. The new version of you, the calmer, quieter, more self-focused version, is making them question everything about themselves. They are wondering if they ever deserved you. They are wondering if they lost their chance. They are wondering if someone else has stepped into the space where they used to stand. The thought of you smiling at someone else, talking to someone else, giving your energy to someone else, it's haunting them. They can't stand the idea that the love they didn't water is now being appreciated by someone else. But wait, this is where everything shifts. They are no longer thinking about one day. They are no longer planning eventually. They are no longer waiting for the perfect moment, because the fear of losing you has reached its limit. They are preparing themselves for a bold move, a move they've never taken before. Something in them has shifted, and it's impossible for them to ignore it any longer. What used to stay buried behind hesitation and second thoughts has now turned into a strong need to finally speak honestly, without filtering every word or holding back emotions for the sake of comfort. They've been carrying questions inside for a long time, replaying moments where they stayed silent, where fear made the decisions for them, and where important things were left unsaid. Only now, after the distance between you has grown, do they fully understand what that silence cost them. There's a growing tension in them, not dramatic but steady, like an inner voice insisting that if they don't express what's inside soon, it will become even harder to fix what's been slipping away. In this realization, They also see you differently now. Not as someone they once assumed would always stay the same, but as someone who has grown, changed, and moved forward in ways they didn't anticipate. Instead of feeling pushed away by that, they feel strangely pulled toward it, as if your growth has become a mirror forcing them to confront their own stagnation. Your calm distance, your quiet strength, and the space you've created between you are no longer barriers in their mind, but signals that they need to rise to something more sincere. Now, when they think about reaching out, it no longer feels casual or optional. It feels necessary, deliberate, and deeply personal. They understand that if there is any chance to reconnect, it cannot be built on old patterns or half-truths. It has to come from honesty, clarity, and emotional responsibility. Because at this point, they are no longer just trying to get your attention again. They are trying to prove they can be someone worthy of still having a place in your life.